city for more information.
Live from the Grenadian capital, this is the GBN television news. GBN, covering you from the Grenadine Island chain to Brooklyn, New York, via the World Wide Web on www.gbn.gd.
The news headlines is brought to you compliments GUT Credit Union.
These have been tough times, and we could all use a helping hand to get through this period. GUT Credit Union gives you the opportunity to do just that without a worry. What are you looking forward to? A relaxing staycation? Brand new appliances or devices? Consolidating your debt to get more money in your pocket? Not a member? No worries. Come in and find out how you too can make the most of this offer. Or visit us today. Yes, you can have a brighter Christmas season with GUT Credit Union. GUT Credit Union. It's where you belong.
This is the GBN television news from Monday, December 14th, 2020. Probably the hottest Monday of the year. We have quite some stories for you. I'm Chrislyn, Lashington. In the headlines, Health Ministry and Sandals Resorts come under fire for apparent lax regulations as Grenada's COVID-19 cases skyrocket. Opposition party calls for investigation into COVID-19 outbreak at Sandals. Eerie calm at Post Royal St. Andrew, cited as COVID-19 hotspot. GBN takes you to the village. Electricity company scales back operations as staff member tests positive for COVID-19. Members of the public offering varying perspectives on whether the country should be placed on lockdown for Christmas. Licenses for social events to be revoked. And in around the globe, medical officials in St. Lucia welcome new contact tracing app, and first shipments of COVID-19 vaccine arrive at distribution centers across the United States. Coming up in sports, FC Camahan crowned Waggy T Super Knockout Football Tournament champion. Details right after this message.
This is GBN, the nation's news leader. This segment is brought to you by Quartz Grenada Limited.
Despite the situation we now face, one thing is for certain. We will get through this together. As much as we are a part of your community, you are a part of who we are. Let's take care of each other during this time, as we always do. And soon, we know that with the dawn of that new day, all of this will be over, and our land will once again be healed. In the meantime, stay safe. Know that we're here for you. Quartz, bringing value home.
Good evening to viewers on TV, YouTube, and Facebook, and our listeners on K105. This is GBN Television News. The testing units are buzzing while the clock ticks. As health professionals monitor the readings, scores of Grenadians are panicking. Will they get a call confirming that they contracted the coronavirus? That's the question on minds of about 200 or more people who have been asked to submit themselves for testing following the manifestation of scores of cases at the Sandals resorts on the weekend. Government said that at first count, at least 35 cases were identified and scores of samples were sent to the General Hospital and St. George's University testing units. GBN has been waiting throughout the afternoon for an update from health officials. We were later told that the details will be provided during an address by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell, which will air right after this newscast at 8 p.m. Health officials are also expecting to delve further into some of the issues during tonight's Beyond the Headlines program. Our panelists will include Health Minister Nicholas Steele, Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sean Charles, and Dr. George Mitchell of the COVID-19 Committee. That program follows the Prime Minister's address and the nightly lotto draw. Moving on, as the news broke, fingers started pointing. The government has come under fire, and so too has Sandals Resort. Some expressed anger that the regulations did not provide for Sandals guests to submit to testing upon arrival at the Maurice Bishop International Airport. Others spewed venom amid reports that random tests were not being conducted as claimed by the government. Dr. George Mitchell of the COVID-19 committee went on the defensive when he appeared on GBN Current Affairs program today.
Social media was alight on Sunday with allegations that Sandals Resort guests and staff have been privileged to enjoy leniency with regards to COVID-19 protocols at the resort. This followed the announcement of a massive spike in COVID-19 cases coming out of the resort. How and why this happened are yet to be determined. Dr. George Mitchell of the COVID-19 Advisory Committee sought to provide clarity on what could have led to the outbreak while appearing on GBN's To The Point program. He said although accusations are rife, Sandals has been using the original COVID-19 protocols, which required a negative PCR test 7 days old or less.
What we have done and what we stuck with is the protocol that says you must, for Sandals guests, you must have a test result that is 7 days or less. So basically sticking to the original protocol. And that whoever qualifies with that can come to the resort and circulate within the resort with all the protocols that have been established.
Dr. Mitchell said after reviewing the protocol Sandals Resorts had to abide by, it was established that risk of infection or transmission of COVID-19 was minimal.
I had, and I'm not sure if it's a privilege, but I went through the protocol with a fine-tooth comb, as we say, and that protocol matched up to industry, the best of the industry standards. Those that have been refined for cruise ships, those that have been refined for casinos and all the other industries that has gradually opened up. So they are based on international standards, and we were confident that once those protocols are kept by the hotel, that the risk, and we always have to come back on the risk of transmitting the virus is minimized.
GBN visited the Government of Grenada's official COVID-19 site, which stated guests staying at approved Pure Safe travel accommodation hotels and resorts will not normally be tested on arrival. It further stated that guests will not be liable to take any further tests unless if during their stay they wish to leave the Pure Safe travel accommodations. They will then need to take a PCR test after the 4th day of their stay. For GBN News, Beverly Tellisford.
A small village in St. Andrew is said to be one of the communities which has been most severely impacted by the recent COVID-19 outbreak. GBN has been informed that a hotel worker who contracted the virus may have been the source of at least a dozen other cases in the village of Post Royal. Indications are that 2 students of the Holy Innocents Roman Catholic School, who are in grades 1 and 3, are among those diagnosed. GBN's Joseph Kador and Levi Benoit made the journey to Post Royal and sent us this report.
The tired, sleepy, unassuming village of Post Royal in St. Andrews, that is in the southeast actually of St. Andrews, has been plunged into a state of panic and fear. This following one positive case that has been identified. Now, for many, given the closeness of the village and the intermingling that takes place on a frequent basis, health officials are on a fast track to try to contain what in their fear could be a situation that could lead to a community spread. There were reports that the village was under complete lockdown and that no one was being allowed in or out. Some even spread rumors that security forces were on guard in the village. That proved untrue. When the GBN crew drove through the area, there was no police or special services unit presence. What was observed, though, was that people were very cagey when we approached and tried to engage in conversation. As we solicited the sale of 2 beverages after a long drive, one of the occupants eyed the GBN crew with suspicion, with with at least one person saying, "Ask us no questions. We have no answers." A quick analysis of the situation revealed that the Education Ministry, or more so, Education Minister Emlyn Pear, got lucky. For months, the teachers' union clamored for a closure of schools amidst fear of a possible outbreak. It was only on Friday that schools were closed for the Christmas holidays, and then by weekend, one of the schools in Post Royal came into sharp focus. Standing outside the Holy Innocent School in Ladigue. Here's what we can tell you, that the school, as you can see behind me, is actually a school that is attended by 2 students that are among family members from the Post Royal cluster. Officials are actually counting their blessings that given school is actually on closure, it reduces on the incidence of any further contamination among the school population. Education Minister Emlyn Pear probably breathed a sigh of relief and looked to the heavens with thanksgiving as she dodged the bullet of blame that would have been heaped upon her head had the outbreak occurred while school was in session. On Sunday, she turned to the scriptures for consolation and hope.
The scripture that says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind is so very relevant today. Therefore, it's not a time for panic. It is not a time for us to speak doom and gloom and to lose hope. But I believe that this is a time for us to renew our faith. A time to renew our faith, but a time to exercise wisdom, to take decisive action.
Health officials on the island have found themselves in assault mode in an attempt to contain what has yet been the worst could be, or has been, the worst possible outbreak of COVID-19 on the island. Now we can tell you that since the announcement yesterday evening, not just here in the village of Post Royal, but across the nation, there's been a sense of reservation and maybe a sense of certain doom. However, in the midst of any crisis or calamity, we look to our leaders for support and guidance. And it is the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell, is expected to address the nation at 8 p.m. this evening. From Post Royal in St. Andrew, Joseph.
Thank you so much, Joseph. That was a very detailed report. Now, the question is, will there be another lockdown? During the summer months, the country was placed in lockdown mode to ensure that health officials got a handle on the emerging COVID-19 situation. The weekend's announcement have sparked fears that government may soon adopt the lock and key mode once again. But is that necessary? Are people ready for this as the Christmas season approaches? GBN's Chrislyn John tried to find out today.
The general consensus on the ground: we are not ready for another lockdown. One might consider what was seen on the streets of the capital on Monday as people possibly panic shopping, fearing that possibility.
No, we don't ready for it. We don't ready. We was time and we get thing. And they're supposed to make the people put the mask in their face. I don't see some on the bus who don't have it. So they should stop in the bus and watch too.
Oh, no, we can't afford it. The country can't afford it. At the end of the day, a lockdown costs millions per day. And in these tough economic times, how could a small country like Grenada afford that now, especially this festive season?
Possibility is likely that we could have another lockdown, which many of us would not really want to go back into another lockdown. But if you don't do if you don't take the adhere to the protocols and so on, you understand? Chances that we might very well go back down that road again.
We in the NBA would probably want to go there. A lockdown would be to us regression. But if it has to happen, then it has to happen.
For some people, COVID remains a hoax and a perplexing situation.
When I really look at what happened in this country here, we don't really know what to believe at this time. And personally, to my feelings, if the government find 19 or 20, how many cases they claiming that they find in the country, I think the Prime Minister would have shut down the country immediately. When we didn't have any COVID in the country, we had been locked down for how many months, which even the government was crying out on the economy. Now we have over 20-something cases at one time. Don't you think they would have shut down the country immediately and try to, even though it's what, 2 days, 3 days, why wait until Christmas? I think the people should be that scared as they're trying to get us to be, you know, they have us really scared all about the place, all about the country. I go see people, like they don't know what to do. So I think it's better they tell us what's really going on.
Derek McKenzie believes people are yet to recover, both mentally and financially, from the country's first shutdown. He told GBN that the Bus Association is taking precautionary measures.
I don't think that we are prepared, especially in our industry, for the possibility of another lockdown. For us to go back under a lockdown, I don't know if the government will do another stimulus. A lot of persons' bank accounts are very thin. They can't